starting off?
Got coffee, sat in my car. It's a bit weird. I've never drank a coffee out of a cup in my car, so.
Yeah, fair enough. Straight in at the deep end then. I can see that you have decided to wear trousers for this interview.
I have, yes. Well, I'm in the greater public right now, so I thought it was wise to.
Yeah. So you're about to start rehearsing for Ultra Mono?
Now, at the moment, we're working on new ideas for album 4.
Oh, really? So
yeah,
what's the cycle? Is that like a really quick cycle between each album? Is that how you work?
Yeah and no, really. It's more like the premise is there that we like to keep moving quickly, to keep writing while we're excited and want to. Doesn't necessarily work that way, like Ultra Mono, we started writing pretty much straight away after Joy, and got some bits and pieces going, but nothing really came around until like 2 months before we recorded it, and that's when the whole album really solidified as its thing, as its entity, as all the music together. So I guess at the moment we're just testing the waters. We got lots of ideas. There's loads of it's like 30 songs on the table, but at this point in time, it's no like it's no pressure, but it's we just want to find what this album means to us, what it's going to be, and that takes time, and that's why we start so quickly.
Is that something you do before every album then? Are you trying to think, right, what is it that we want to be talking about? What sort of message then are you trying to convey?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we try and keep a clear consensus throughout the whole band. So when ideas are going backwards and forwards, we all are on the same page. Now that sometimes is very difficult to understand for all 5 of us to be on the exact same page, but eventually it all comes together, and the writing becomes a lot clearer.
Going back to being in a rehearsal room and rehearsing on things, when you're rehearsing songs, do you rehearse the whole performance as well? Because I mean, you've got a tour coming up. Are you rehearsing to remember the songs and sort of practice them, or are you rehearsing how you perform on stage, how you interact with the crowd?
Nah, it's just motoric. So when we are rehearsing, we're rehearsing to know our parts inside out.
Right.
So that way, whatever happens on stage happens, and it should sound as close to the song as possible. Whereas if we didn't know how the songs were inside out, we would be awful, because we don't. The live show is meant to be really energetic. That's what we want. That's how we feel. That's how. For me, playing live is therapy. So if I'm having a bad day, I get on stage and I go absolutely apeshit.
Yeah.
And then I come off and I feel a bit clearer, like that's my safe place. It's my zone. I can't do that if I don't know the songs, because I have to concentrate. I don't want to concentrate on how to play our own songs. It just seems a bit silly. Like I could spend all this time off of the stage practicing, get tight, and then when I get on the stage, nothing. I don't want anything in my head. I just want to have fun. I want to enjoy it and dance around and throw my guitar around and be with my friends.
Yeah. So with that then, given that you're rehearsing the songs, I guess you don't really rehearse a cemented set list either. You just know the song so you can run through it.
No, we will have a set list, and what that also provides is structure.
Right.
So it provides, do you know what, right? A set list for us provides structure. For myself and a few of the others, it's nice to know like what's coming next, so I can always be ready. So I can get effects ready. I can, really clean up the time between songs because I know what's coming. The other thing is having a written set list and agreed upon. Having a set list that is thought of actually means a lot more musically, because each song that goes together, it creates a performance, it creates the set. And if we just bang any song next to each other, it just wouldn't feel right. You know, it's a whole consideration. We don't practice our performance, but we definitely practice the sonics and the, I don't know what the word is. I've just complete brain fart. What's the word for like the overall, you know, like the whole show itself has to be
the whole structure of everything and the way like it's sort of curated, I guess, on stage.
Yeah, so that comes with a set list because it needs to have a purpose. Each song going next to each other needs to have a purpose. It needs to make sense.
Right.
We don't want to put like, you know, fast song, fast song, fast song, fast song, fast song. People just get bored. They don't want to hear it. They just don't want that. We don't want that either. You get tired.
Yeah, you can't constantly be like running around and crowd surfing, can you?
It's an hour and a half. You got to have a few slow ones in there. They're the breathers.
You'll end up like Enter Shikari, and they're like, you know, running on stage and doing fitness drills before shows and stuff.
Exactly. I'm not sure about that. We're not that fit. By the time I come off stage, I'm absolutely ruined.
Is that every show as well?
Every show. Every single one of us in every show puts everything they have that day into it. So if I only have 50% of my soul in me, I will put all of that 50% in. If I have 100% of my soul that day, it will get all of it. Like I will give every single ounce of myself on stage, because if I don't, I won't feel good when I come off.
Yeah. Do you ever get that feeling then of, like I think all musicians have it, where before you go on, if you're in the midst of the tour or something and you're just thinking, I'm knackered, I don't know if I can do it, and you just want to sit back, does that then stay with you on stage, or does that evaporate and you get lost in it again?
It depends. I think majority of the time it goes. It just disappears. Yeah. It's like the moment my foot steps on that stage, like I can be like, oh God, I can't do this today. I am ruined. And then my foot takes one more step and I'm like, whoop, and I'm in. Like, it's bizarre. It's just this thing that happens when you walk on that stage. It's weird because all day you walk around that stage doing sound check and everything. And you're just like, oh God, not today. And then the moment it comes to showtime, it's just something else. It's just not explainable, really, what happens inside you.
What I've always thought was really interesting about your guys' live performances, and I think it's something that other people I've spoken to as well have said a similar thing, is that you always seem to make it feel like a hometown show. Is that something you actively try to do, or do you think that's just to do with the way you perform and write?
I mean, I can't speak for everyone else in the band, but
yeah,
I guess in my opinion, I don't think it's something that we try and do, but what we do try and do is always be transparent and honest. And I think that feeling of transparency and honesty, if, you know, when it's given out there, it's reciprocated. People believe that we care about what we do, and they believe that we're having fun because we genuinely are having fun.
Yeah. And
I think that maybe that's what makes it feel like that. That's what makes it feel inclusive, because it seems like we actually give a fuck, that we want to be there, because we truly do. Like every single show, every single city, it's a new experience. It's a new stage. It's a new vibe. It's a new crowd, and it's a new feeling. And I want to keep doing that in different venues and different cities, different countries, and hopefully retain this feeling that, you know, that people still believe that we give a fuck, because that's essentially what it's all about.
Do you think that's to do with, I guess, especially on Joy, but as well on Ultra Mono, when you're kind of talking about, you know, community and things like that, do you think that is what allows crowds to feel like that at your shows, as well as the way you perform and you guys, you know, really caring about it?
Say it again.
Do you think it's to do with the way you guys write, and like you said like you sort of, the way you performed Joy and also Ultramona now, is that constant thought of the importance of community, and it's not just, and all of those fans then latch on to that. So it's not just the fact that you guys really care about the performance, it's, I guess, the subject matter as well.
Yeah, for sure. And I think the subject matter doesn't convey unless we act upon it, you know?
Yeah, of course.
Because, like, I always believe in myself that if, like, we're not perfect human beings, we can't be, because we are people. So we have our bad days, we have good days, and we you know, sometimes we can be shit, and especially to each other. And this is where it's important to try and live by these mottos, is because we're trying to do it ourselves.
Yeah. And
when we perform and when we sing and when we write about these things, we are literally just trying to live upon it ourselves. It's not like, again, I'm not going to talk for anyone else in the band here, but for me, I'm not going to go around and tell people how to behave, because I can't, because I'm trying to be the best person I can be. And if I try and do that, then maybe, and it works, and maybe it helps others too. I don't know. I just feel like, for me, we just try and be good people. We try and do the right thing. We try and live by what we preach as much as possible. And it's hard sometimes, but that's the whole point of it, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's not easy, but then nothing worth having or doing in life is easy. You have to work.
I think that's kind of the realism of being in the modern music industry and being in a band as well, isn't it? It would be ridiculous to try and convince people that, you know, this was a breeze and there wasn't any difficulty in it.
Yeah. Sometimes it's awful. It's the weirdest thing in the world, doing what we do, because it's like your ultimate dream is what you've worked towards. It's everything you ever wanted, and sometimes it's just everything you don't want. And I think that's kind of, for me, that's life in general. Everything comes in balance, doesn't it?
Yeah. You
can't be happy with everything all the time. So that's when you got to work on things and figure out what it is that you're struggling with, or why doesn't this feel good today? Like those days before you go on stage and you say to yourself, like, why don't I feel like going on stage right now? What's changed? Like, this is my dream. This is the thing that makes me so happy. It's probably nothing to do with the stage. It's always going to be like, well, for me, it's always something else. It's, you know, a bad day, I had an argument with someone, or I just felt like I just don't want to do it.
So is that something then that, because, you know, you've been a sort of a music lecturer in the past and worked with people on performance and stuff, is that something you kind of have to remind, you know, young players and young guitarists of, that you have to drive yourself to do it?
Yeah, I mean, but then also you have the support of your band members.
Yeah.
Too. You're not alone. Like, if you're even if you're a solo artist, you're not alone. There's a whole band there behind you. You know, you don't have to be alone. You don't have to take all the pressure yourself. And that's what I love about this band, is that when one of us is having a bad day, there's 4 other friends with you that are going to carry you. They're going to lift you up, and hopefully that attitude is going to help you find your rhythm as you go through the show. And if you're really out, it doesn't matter, because they will carry you. You know, they're there. There's 4 more weirdly interesting people on that stage that people can focus on.
Yeah.
And then you can get off stage, clear your head, and come back tomorrow hopefully with a not a better attitude, but a clearer mind, I guess.
Mm.
And I just think so much pressure is put on yourselves all the time. And really, you're just doing the thing that you love. So when you're performing, that should be freedom.
Yeah.
So that again comes back to rehearsing.
Mm.
You rehearse the songs like mad. You don't have to think about them. You just perform. If you make a mistake, there's all those people around you. They'll carry you for a moment. I mean, we make loads of mistakes. Constant.
Is that something that's important to remember, that, you know, bands like yourselves playing huge stages still make mistakes? And I think that's something that, like, young guitar players get really scared of, especially in like the Instagram era where there's constant, you know, another new guitar player who is incredible. Is that something to stay aware of?
So are you saying right now that people should be more aware that crap guitarists like us are waving the flag for all the other crap guitarists out there?
That is not what I'm trying to say. I mean, if those words come out of your mouth.
Nah, I'm only joking. We don't. We are self-confessed average guitarists. You know, we have no. We're under no impression that we are virtuosos. You know. I believe. I forgot what the question was now. Yes, making mistakes on stage is fucking normal, man. Like,
Yeah.
It used to terrify me. You know, like, it was constantly terrifying. I always wanted to be like, do the best I could be, and that's a good attitude to have. However, if you make a mistake, just fucking move on, because the moment you make a mistake, it's like pulling a thread, isn't it? So you make that first mistake, and then you keep thinking about it, and then it's like just slowly put it, and then by the end of the show, you're like, oh my god, I had a fucking howler. It's like every song. But if you make a mistake and you just go, just keep playing, you're more likely to not make any more.
Yeah, and just power through it.
Yeah, it's a very weird psychology, that being okay with your flaws, basically.
Mm-hmm. Let's on the subject of guitar playing. Then let's talk a bit more about the guitar work on Ultra Mono, because what something that I picked up on anyway is that, like, you guys have always, you know, been really big proponents of like the use of feedback, almost like as an instrument. But on this record, it feels like there's more like control, maybe, or restraint. I don't know what the right word is, but it feels like
consideration.
Yeah, exactly. Is that something that you've actively like considered, I guess? I mean, when you think about brutalism, there's kind of just like a wall, isn't there, of feedback, whereas here it's used in a really considered and full of intent.
Absolutely. Like, brutalism actually has a take of Bowen doing feedback throughout the whole album, just randomly, like, going up to kind of, you know, and that it's bled in and out of the album in parts to give it, like, you know, like a bit of energy and boost. Now, I guess you can argue that is like, it's considered, we did it on purpose,
Of course. But
it's also, it's kind of unnecessary, you know. It's like, oh well, we've got that just in case. So that's not very considered then, is it? It's like it's a just in case, isn't it? Like, that's, you don't have just in cases if everything is right. So, and then Joy, things were starting to tighten up. The ideas, the premise of what these parts were. However, Bowen and I were still learning who we were as a team. So there's still a bit of crossover, you know, but we're getting there. I feel like we're getting there on Joy. Brutalism, we're not there. We are literally like, noise, guitar, I'm going to do this now, and you do this, and it's constant. It's just savagery. And then Ultra Mono, it was like, right, that we know what we're good at, let's focus on it. So, like, Bowen's really, really good at like rhythmic, like catchy rhythmic lines, you know, and he can join in with the bass or the drums really easily and be like this like propulsion that pushes the song. And then I can just do these like Miss Mervo, for instance, like Bowen's doing this like driving, like bassy guitar line, and I'm just doing these stabs which go over everything. And that's something we've been doing for years. It's just like, you know, we honed in what these tones were, the purpose, and when we play, you know, and that was taken further on Ultramono by playing together, and not just playing together with the same tone and the same notes. It was, you know, like on Grounds, for instance, we're playing the same, but it's different because I'm in I think I'm on the 9 in drop D on E, and Bowen's on the 2 on the A, and we're bending, dang 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 dang. Bowen's got this like rubber bandy tone where it's like dang 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 dang, and I'm clean and sharp, and it's like ding 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 ding. So I'm providing the clarity, the poke. Bowen's providing the like the energy and human, because there's not really much human feeling in a poke, you know, like a dank, 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 dank. It just doesn't feel like human. When you hear yang, 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 you feel like it feels more human. So if you combine the two together, you get that like rhythmic but human feeling, and that's the sort of thing that we push towards for Ultramono. It's a consideration. And then when it comes to feedback, like feedback was used specifically as parts, not to wash over things. You know, it doesn't, you don't get feedback all over the top of everything. You just have, I'm doing most of the feedback work on this album, and like in Rains, for instance, my guitar line is just feedback in the verse. Yeah. And that's like, it's just a feedback line. It's like, you know, it's frippy, you know, like Bowie's guitarist, like, sort of vibe. And that's to provide a like a bridge to the chorus, essentially, you know, and it's just a texture, because everything else that's going on in the song didn't need anything else to upset the propulsion and the rhythmic nature of it. You know, like Dev sounds like a drum, you know, digga digga dig digga digga digga, like a hi-hat. That's the idea there. And then Bowen is now the bass, womp womp womp, and then I'm this like searing top line that doesn't interfere with the bass and drums or the vocals. So we all have a realm to sit in. We live in a whole frequency range.
So with that then, because like, you know, you're a band that pulls from loads of different influences as well. So, you know, like you spoke about, now you feel like you have like defined roles. Is that for, like in like a sort of strokesy kind of way, where you've kind of got your set sort of areas of guitardom, I guess, where you kind of now working in that feedback top line melody area, and Bowen is sort of working as like an extra bass player or adding that?
Nah. No? Well, I'd like to think that like we know what we're good at. However, we will always, you know, because there is that's not, there's the best way to convey what I'm trying to say right now. We're very much more aware of what we're good at, but people will still come to the table with different ideas. Bowen will still come to the table with a, like, he's actually much better at writing top lines than I am. It's just in his nature.
Yeah.
But what's right for the song is right for the song. So that's what takes over. It's not, it's disillusion of the ego. We don't, like, we let things go. So if Bowen, like, say I wrote something and it didn't work for the song, it was there, but now it's like, oh, do you know what, it doesn't work. And Bowen said, oh, we could do this, and it works. That's now the top line. Right. And we readjust, and then we work out what's needed. Does it need a guitar anymore? No? I'm out. I'll just stand by the side.
Still have that fluidity then to be able to go, actually, mate, you take this because it makes sense in your context rather than, there's no like rigid lines then, I guess.
Nah, it's what works for the song. It's always what is best for the song. Like 100%. That is like the hardest thing we've ever had to learn. Because as players, you are egotistical. It's natural. Like, you're like, yeah, I wrote this riff. Yeah, tell everyone I wrote this riff. Who cares who wrote the riff? Like, it is about like the song. Because like, it might be that in that song, the drums are the best bit of the whole song. So just focus on that and play off them and make, you know, we don't have to muddy the waters with loads of different noises. Let's just focus on this one sound and make it the best it can be. So like, I don't remember the names of any of the songs. Good job it's coming out on Friday. Like for instance, like I explained like with Grounds, like that's about the drum beat. You know, like it's all about that drum beat. And then there's this explosion of guitars. And that's it. And we're all playing the exact same thing. So it's like, there's no ego there. It's entirely about what is it that makes this song the best it can be. All right, we all play it together. Try and fill out the frequencies, make it as big as possible. So the drums are just this huge like attack with Joe singing over, and then well, not like the guitars are the huge attack, but they're like drums and the singing is just there, and then all of a sudden and then off, and that's, you know, that can come from anyone. There's no lead there. But obviously when it comes to, you know, solo times and that, you know, we branch off. That's where we're all like this always, and then all of a sudden when it's right we do that, and then we come back. So what's this? Revolut is telling me about stocks. I don't have stocks. I don't know. It's taking up my whole screen with stocks. I don't know what that means.
It's a very different career trajectory, that, mate.
It's gonna be I don't think it's ever going to be a trajectory, to be honest. So yeah, and that again comes back to the writing process, which is something that we considered. And it's funny you say the Strokes. Strokes are a huge influence on us. Always have been. In the recent episode of Genks, Bowen and I do a pedal show called Genks. We actually talk about, it's episode 3. We talk about the Strokes a lot because we always rip off the Strokes. You know, like we love the sound of the Strokes. We love the feeling of the Strokes. We love the movement of the guitars and the clarity of who does what and how they do it, and that the rhythmic nature of them. You know, like one of them's doing downstrokes the whole time, the other one's doing like a chicka-ching, chicka-ching, chicka-ching. So you just got these.
Exactly what I noticed was I noticed that there is like a clear definition on this, which, as you said as well, isn't as obvious on stuff as far back as Brutalism. No. So I was just wondering if that's something that you've channeled in on more.
On Brutalism, I don't think Paul and I ever listened to either of our rhythms, ever. I don't think either of us ever even listened to each other's guitar parts. It wasn't until after we recorded it we were like, oh, that's cool. You know?
That's crazy.
And like obviously you hear it. We were in this like tiny, dingy, like moldy practice room, and volumes were like full. We didn't understand anything that was going on around us, but we were like, yeah, it sounds sick. And then like that's when Joy had this like moment of, oh wait, what are we? What is this? What's this we're doing? And then you can figure out what that is in words. And then when it got to Ultra Mono, it was like, right, okay, like, you know, should we downstroke for the whole, like Model Village, it's downstrokes the whole song. It is the most punishment any guitarist can feel. It's just continuous, it never ends. And the same with War, all the chord bursts, they're all downstrokes. For me in Anxiety, it's all downstrokes. And then there's little inflections, like Ne touche pas moi, it's basically all downstrokes. It's like a so there's just these like inflections of rhythm just in the movements of chords. Again, you know, we just had to practice it together to be tight as we could. I mean, that was just ripping off a Hives song, you know, like we just wanted to. We watched the Hives live on one of our festival runs, and we were like, they are the kings of this shit. Yeah. They always have been, and like they sort of fell out of our consciousness. And then when we saw them again, we were like, nah, like we got to do one of these. Yeah, like we have to. The energy that they have is insane. Still to this day, they fucking bosh those songs out. So we're like, yeah, we got to do that.
Right, you just mentioned Genks, which I think was really interesting, because like you've said about you guys actively listening to each other, and with Genks, like you've kind of shown to the guitar world that you're as invested in pedals and guitars. Yeah. So is Genks another way of you guys kind of listening to each other, I guess, and working out what your rig is and his rig, and working out your relationship as like people who are interested in guitar as a whole, not just as songwriters?
I mean, we are entirely invested in making sounds. You know, it's like it's everything that we want. We're entirely invested in the sonics of what our songs are, and Genks is definitely an opportunity for us to talk further about what it is we're doing individually with our pedals. Now, this isn't necessarily a conversation in recording or in the practice room, because we're just writing the parts, doing it, dialing it in, and then people will say, there'll be words thrown across the room like, oh, maybe it should be a bit sharper, maybe it should be a bit like clangier, or, you know, a bit subbier, and like, you know, you just make it happen.
Yeah.
You don't then explain every single movement you're doing. Since we've been doing Genks, I feel like myself, I've learned my own equipment so much more, because we are going through it. We're actually considering it. We're not just doing it in the room, like because you're hearing a sound and you're trying to find that sound. You're actually looking at it. It's that thing about, you know, when you teach, you reassure that you know what the fuck you're talking about, because you're actually thinking about the process that you're doing and considering it.
Right.
So that's what Genks has done for me. And then looking at Bowen's stuff, I guess, I mean, again, we've always been quite open about you know, in the room about what pedals we use, and we talk about them. We go to like pedal shops together when we're on tour and just fucking make horrible noises and be like, oh, that's sick, let's try that, and then never use it again. And then like countless pedals do that.
Is that why your pedal board is absolutely massive, because you just buy ones and throw them in?
No, everything on the board right now, apart from the robot, is entirely used. Although, saying that, the robot is used live when I just want to make stupid sounds in like in weird feedback moments. If we go off on one and then just like, you know, you can just do that shit. Yeah. I think it might get removed from the board for something that's actually beneficial moving forward. Like, I don't know, maybe like some weird synth pedal or something, just that can do weird noises but actually have a purpose, a control, you know. But yeah, like
you're a huge Death by Audio fan as well, aren't you? So
massive, yeah.
What is it about those guys then that has kind of almost dominated your pedal board?
They're evil. They're genuinely evil. Like the noises that they make, the power that they give. Like all of my feedback stuff on Ultramono is basically the Earthquaker device's arrows, the Earthquaker device's tone job, providing this like tone,
Yeah.
poke, and then it's just completely overridden by the Interstellar Overdriver with both sides on, the deluxe one, the two sides, and it's just smashing out the signal. And that's what Deaf by Audio does. Like, for some reason, they manage to smash your signal, but with tone. Like, you know, when you're like, if you're gain staging, if you keep stacking, everything sort of gets a bit, rather than it being pokey or like fuzzy or buzzy, it starts to get rounder. You know, like you lose that clarity. A lot of Deaf by Audio pedals still have the ability to be sharp, which is quite cool. Then when you add arrows on it, which is a treble booster, you just poke it out a little bit more. Then when you put a tone job on it and you roll the bass off and turn the treble right up,
and that's it.
It's hurting your ears.
But as a guitar player, you're quite a Fender aficionado. You know, you use Tellys and Mustangs and stuff a lot. But I want to know more about your relationship with the Telly, because you always seem to use it, I guess, an Esquire, then a one pickup Telly.
Yeah.
Is that because you rely on your pedals for your tone, so you kind of want a simple approach with your guitar, or is it something else?
Well, no, yes and no. I mean, the truth of it is that I used to break all my guitars.
Right.
So just removed everything that was surplus to requirements so it would work for a whole show. So that was take out the neck, take out the tone pot, take out the switch, anything that has extra electronics that can break or rip, or, you know, that the input is screwed in and glued in, because I kept ripping them out. And then the plate is got bigger screws and they're glued in too. And it's just bridge pickup to volume to output. Right. And that's it. And that purpose was for practicality, I guess. The things would work. However, before that, we were basically always using the bridge pickups for what we did anyway, because it's a lot more aggressive. We always use single coils. Again, you get more poke out of a single coil, you know? I mean, we always work off of this like aggro sound, really. Humbuckers are a bit warmer, they're a bit more body to them, which is great when you need it, but we've kind of then built that with pedals. So we single coil, bridge, then pedals.
Yeah. I guess
that
60 cycle hum of a single coil is beneficial to the way you play in your sound as well, isn't it? Rather than a humbucker.
Well, when we go clean, there's nothing that compares to a single coil. Like Model Village wouldn't sound like Model Village without single coils.
Of course. Yeah.
Like it is that sound. That's the thing, you know. I guess there's a few parts that really could have worked with a humbucker. However, Bowen has a EGC, and the pickups in them are so fat. They're like single coil P90s almost.
Right.
But they just sound so big, and I think it's because of, you know, the metal neck and the resonance it creates, and whatever they do in their pickups, it's absolutely banging. And that guitar really changed a lot of things on this album, as well as a lot. Bowen actually double took. So we found that the bass was being too like flabby or boomy when we're doing the fast stuff. So like Natouche Palmois, doing that song with the bass, like it gets a bit like blah 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 blah. Exactly. And then so the studio in Lafrette had a I think it was a 50s custom Telly baritone. Is it
Cool.
baritone? What's the other one? Bass six? Bass six. It was bass six.
Oh, right, yeah.
And he was like, I think this would help you. I've been hearing you. The guy who owns the studio, he's like, I've heard what you're doing. I think this could be of use to you. And then next thing you know, it's on every fucking song. I mean, all of them. So then, you know, like the bass is like, you know, the EQs between the bass and the bass six are just like pushed. So we got the grunt of the bass, but you got the poke of the bass six, because the bass six provides you with something the guitars can't provide either. It's just that was a game changer in the studio, and we need one. I've forgotten why we're talking about this now.
I was just talking about your relationship with like using Fenders and Fender pickups, and then how that relates to your pedal board, and then also your amp as well.
Oh yeah, so that's it. So yeah, the bass six Fender again,
yeah,
provided us with tonal range that we didn't have with our bridge pickup
yeah.
guitars. But then again, like, you know, the EGC was like completely instrumental on this album. Like this album wouldn't exist without that guitar too. Regardless of how many Fenders we have. But we love Fenders. They're just these like modular things that you can just smash up, rebuild, change this, change that, you know. They're endless. They're just full of joy, and they're like a telly is built like a brick shithouse.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like, if I smash one up, like I have to go to town to get it to just crack, you know? Like, they are amazing. And that's what I love about touring with them. So if I'm like rolling around, if I throw it, or, you know, you just pick it back up and crack back on. There's less fear using a telly. And the sound of a telly bridge pickup is like no other, you know? It's just something I remember the first time I used the telly. It was my friends, and I always looked at it and I always thought, you know, they're lovely, but I play Strat, you know. I play a Strat.
I'm a Strat guy.
I'm a Strat guy, I mean. And I always used to look at it and be like, oh, it is nice, isn't it? Like, let's just have a feel. And the moment it went in my hands, I was like, oh, I'm a telly guy.
Throw the Strat away.
Pretty much, honestly. And then I've only ever had one other Strat since, two now, but since getting a telly, and that's for like the last 10 years.
Wow.
I love them. I love Mustangs too, because they're like toys, you know.
Yeah, that's short scale, isn't it? I mean,
and they're so light, you know, like when you've done an hour on stage with a telly, you're like, yeah, Mustang, you're like, way. So
just quickly, what about amplifiers? Because I've seen that you've been a Marshall guy in the past. I've also seen you using Supro, but then throughout Genks, the Genks videos you've been using a Tone Master. So what did you grab for the studio recordings?
Both Fender and Marshall. So the majority of my stuff is an SLP and a JCM 800, both 100 watts.
Yeah.
And a Fender Twin with a blues driver just pushing it a little bit.
Interesting.
Because Fender Twins give you this like this poke.
Yeah.
But it's like poke with character. So like if you use if you go straight to desk, or if you use a solid state amp, I find that everything's very crisp and very clean, and like I love that. Like I have a PV Pacer as well from the 70s, and that's on the album too, and that's a solid state single 12-inch speaker that Queens of the Stone Age used to use them actually. Yeah. And they give you that chop that you need, like when you're playing chord stuff. It sounds very, you know, like Gang of Four-y. Like the like solid state WEM sound and stuff like that. It's just like ching 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 ching. Now you can get that with the Twin too. It's that the Twin, because it's valve, it has this like slight warmth to it. It kind of feels a bit more human. So Twins were used on it a lot because they sort of slot in with the Marshalls quite well. Marshalls are saturated, all the effects go into them. The Twins just cut in through it. And then when the Twins and the Pacer weren't doing the job, it was straight to desk, you know, straight into the lead.
Really?
There's nothing more pokier than going straight into the lead, you know. And then for Do you want to know Bowen's?
Yeah, go for it. Absolutely.
Bowen was using high-watt 100s and a Sun Model T.
Very cool.
Which we actually borrowed from the band Sun.
Nice.
Fucking sick.
Yeah, great band.
And then he also used a Twin, and for the exact same reason, you know, that cut. We also had a Princeton there. It was like a 70s Princeton. Used that on a few things. It sounded like it's like fucking crapping out, like real fucked up, broken tone, you know? And then again, Mesa Boogie, the original Mesa Boogie one.
Really? Oh, wow.
Like the Warren Ellis guitar,
Yeah.
you know, that amp. It's so fucking loud. Single speaker. Oh my good God, that thing is punishing. It's like a 100-watt single speaker. Fucking mental. It was easily as loud as my SLP, and it's about this fucking big. I just don't understand what they made of those things.
Why are you lugging all of these big amps around on tour, mate, when you could just get one of those?
Exactly. I mean, apparently, the feedback sounds that you can get out of that amp is fucking incredible. You know, like it blew me away. I wish I knew about that amp sooner.
Yeah.
You know, it's far too heavy as well, though, man. I don't want to carry that thing around.
Yeah, very true.
Good thing about heads and cabs is separate.
You get a break between each thing.
And then a lot of straight to desk too. A lot of straight to desk. Just there were a few other little amps here and there, like little extras that kind of made appearances here and there. Like I had this trainer practice amp that's got 2 7-inch speakers in it. It's disgusting. Like if you turn everything to 10, it just sounds like a fuzz pedal.
Yeah, that's kind of what's cool about those old trainers, though, isn't it? That they have that character. It's
really, really strange amp. I mean, these amps, like these were cheap amps. You know, I got a Whammy R40. It cost me like £70. It's fucking amazing. It's like the exact sound of Gang of Four. You want to sound like Gang of Four, you just get a Whammy R40. It's just like dang, 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 dang. That's it.
Yeah.
It's hard. Like, and if you turn the treble up on it, like it's unlistenable. It just completely tear your eardrums apart.
Vicious attack of a Gang of Four record.
Exactly. That PV Pacer cost me £25.
Incredible.
I mean, it's one of those amps that people didn't know about.
Yeah.
Like
hiding in the depths of reverb.
Yeah, and everyone's just selling them off. £25 here, £50 there. Before you know it, they're going to be worth a fortune. I've tried to find another one as a spare, but there doesn't seem to be that many of them around.
People are catching on.
I don't know, maybe. I mean, all the old 70s PV stuff is insane. Really fucking good.
Just one last question. I don't want to keep you from your rehearsals too long, but as a band that I guess did it the hard way. I mean, you were a band for a long time before you put up Brutalism. We sort of alluded to this already as well. I was just wondering if you have any sort of guidance or advice for young guitar players and young bands that are now trying to make it and to play and to be signed, or however you want to phrase it, especially given the current climate as well.
I think for me, it's just being true to yourself a lot of the time, because it sounds simple, and I know it's a lot harder than that. But if you aren't true to yourself, people see through it. They don't believe you. They don't believe in what you want or what you want to do. And then you start losing faith in yourself, because you're not actually following the thing that you want to do or the sound that you want to be. You know, if you chase getting signed by changing the way that you behave or act or write, I just feel like that's going to make your life a lot harder. So if you believe in what it is you want to do and the sound you want to create and focus on it, I feel like people understand that message more. And when you talk about it, they believe in you, because when you talk about it with passion and love, and that can only grow, you know? So for me, it's being true to yourself and focusing on what it is that you want to achieve. And I don't think worrying about getting signed is that, it's not the thing anymore, is it, really? Like, obviously having a label behind you is very beneficial, but in this day and age, focusing on it seems a bit redundant, because you already have the platform to put yourself out there. So if you focus on what you do and hone in on your craft and share it with the world through social media, through friends, and through word of mouth, because a lot of what we built from the beginning was word of mouth.
Yeah.
Just doing small shows and building bit by bit by bit. And then people came to us. You know, it took a long time, but it feels more organic to us doing things that way, because it feels more human, you know.
Cool. Lee, thanks so much for your time, man. I really appreciate it.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, anytime. For more great content like this, be sure to stick to guitar.com/live for interviews, conversations, performances over the next few days.